It's Offside with Hosie and McGuire.
And we're live. Okay. Oh, fuck, I didn't bring a drink. Do with it without, except we can't crack. Yeah, all right, well, it is what it is. We'll just pretend.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's okay.
Crack! It's Offside with Hosie and McGuire. I'm Hosie.
I'm McGuire.
Okay, welcome back to, it's been a long time. It's been a long time. As a matter of fact, my hair is now gray.
You're a new man.
It's unbelievable.
Damn.
It's unbelievable. And
lost some weight?
I found it actually.
Oh.
I lost, then I found it. It's actually just been redistributed. So yeah. We have a lot to go over.
So much. My
Okay.
goodness.
So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you. You were out east.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you were with a bunch of guys playing hockey, doing some trivia stuff, doing the emceeing piece of that. All
Yes.
that. So tell us about that experience, where you went, all that stuff like
Yep.
that, and you know what I mean, and any juicy stories.
You know what? The juicy stories. There was nothing too crazy. I mean, late nights. Drinking, some of the guys go a little hard still. I try, of course, get them to crash early, so everyone's fresh the next day.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But it's just fantastic. I started this last year with Steve Walton, the Legends of Hockey, out of St. John, New Brunswick. He runs the operation and sets these up. I did 3 tours, I think, with him last year. We went from Newfoundland, St. Pierre, and Miquelon, all the way to Alaska and Whitehorse. And this year, this is my second one with him, and we've got a third one booked. It's going to be spectacular, coming up in late March. I got to sandwich that around a quick jaunt down to Philadelphia for Friday night fights.
So where are you going in March?
In March, we're going right back to Newfoundland, man.
Really?
Back on the rock, St. John and Marystown, and possibly another town, and then we're back in New Brunswick and Florenceville, I believe.
Right.
Which
You're home with the McCain family?
Yes, the McCain family. That's right.
McCain's.
Yeah,
that's where they make all the
country.
chips.
That's right. That's right. So I've never been there, but we have hit New Brunswick pretty good. We've hit a lot of towns there, as we just did Newfoundland. So we started in Nova Scotia. We were 4 days in the Windsor area.
Okay, yeah.
Home of Long Pond, where the birthplace of hockey. I mean, it's
Some would argue.
Some would argue it's tough to beat the documentation. There's no documentation that's been ever unearthed anyway. That's older than an 1810 reference of hurley on ice.
Hurling on ice.
Hurling on ice.
That's right.
On Long Pond. They refer to it as hurley.
Well, you know what hurley is.
Yes, of course.
It's the Irish. It's Irish.
Absolutely.
Hockey.
It's the origin of it all.
Yeah.
It was the immigrants that were coming at that time, mixed with the natives from their lacrosse. Was the forerunner of hockey. Eventually the ball, because it bounced, they cut the edges off, and that was the origin of the first puck.
Yeah.
And the game evolved from there. Look, there's no doubt the first game with rules of some sort, played with a time period, although the game was called because of a brawl, but was in 1875 in Montreal. That's documented as well, where a game was played in an arena. But the origin on ice with a stick, playing something that resembled hockey, was in Long Pond.
Right.
Kingston and Montreal's claims, they just don't go back as far. That's documented.
Well, and you know what? I will say this. We owe it to the Irish.
That's right.
We owe it to the Irish.
That's right. Somehow they're the basis of the genesis, really, of so much that's gone right in the world.
Absolutely. Okay.
Especially our trip to Ireland.
That's right.
Last year, that was pretty epic.
That's right.
Pretty
and another one. I'm
so.
going again. I've got it.
I know. You're right around the corner, right?
In
May?
In May, and then another one in September.
September.
And then
I love you, man.
And I've already got guys for September 2026.
Wow.
I actually have more guys for September 2026.
Well, that one I may try and become a part of again somehow, some way.
2025, this year. What's the matter with that?
I certainly can't make May.
That's done. That's closed off.
Yeah.
Just so, and if anybody wants to know, we're not accepting anybody else to go in May.
The winner of our Hosie and Brown hockey pool this year goes.
They go to PI.
That's right. So
PI.
Are we going with them or no?
No.
Okay.
No, we can't afford that.
All right.
Yeah. So I mean, that's to be honest. Unless, of course, somebody wants to cover that.
No. Hey, listen. I didn't know what was what. So
I want to go.
It's the winner and a partner, though, right?
It's a winner and
Not sure.
a
jumped
guest.
In, maybe shouldn't
yeah,
say
you're
kind of running logistics on that,
technically it is. It was for 2. Okay.
Yeah.
But we're, there's some logistical issues.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what I'm hoping is it's a winner, and on the way, he and his wife have a giant fight, and they turn around and come home.
Oh, I see.
And we get a refund, and it all works out.
Right.
But other than that, because we're like, this is the most unlucrative podcast in the history of podcasts.
I bet you there's others that take in a whole lot less money than us.
They probably do. You're right.
I mean, you and I did okay last year. We got to Florida for a week.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Absolutely.
Covered, and we got to Ireland, and I think we did pretty damn good compared to a lot of people who are just sitting in their basement, as we are here, kind of.
Yeah.
And banging something out and hoping they get a few followers.
It's not the first thing you've banged in a basement.
No, it's true.
Yeah. So okay.
Yeah.
So
my trip was outstanding. 10
yes.
days, 4 days Nova Scotia, 5 days Newfoundland, a day in Labrador.
Okay.
Took the ferry across. We had a game. The boys had a game in St. Paul's River, Labrador. They had guys on the other team coming on sleds from towns that have no roads.
Right.
No roads in.
Yeah.
So it's a different look at our vast, expansive, and incredibly unique country.
Yeah.
To see where you can go just a few hours in a plane, travel a few hours by car, take a ferry into parts of the country where people live like that. They're living off the land, man. They work in the bush or they work on the water. Yeah. And primarily those are the occupations for a lot of the places that we were in Newfoundland.
Right.
And Nova Scotia a little bit different.
Well, sadly the fishery's done though. There's no fishery left, and that was and I know my grandfather.
There's still fishing, but I mean.
No, but there's no fishery.
Yeah,
there's no fishery.
There's
no fishery.
Yeah.
And that's an unfortunate situation for the folks in Newfoundland. Yet there's still like people who are like fishing out the freaking Grand Banks. We can't, but.
Yeah, I don't. You know more about that than I do, and who knows? We're gonna have a new prime minister shortly, and things
you think?
will. I don't think. I know this calendar year we're getting a new prime minister, and who knows what the future holds? Maybe some things change, but all I know is they're pretty happy people. Certainly the ones we encountered, and they're resilient, and they can play good hockey. These guys all grew up playing hockey. And everywhere we went, the experience through the sport of hockey was second to none. It was just an outstanding trip. Steve Walton, Ryan Mugford, they just do an outstanding job putting this together. Can't wait for the next one, and more to come down the road. I'm just thankful to be a part of it. It's a very, very unique thing, man.
Yeah,
to get to do this type of travel. Even though a lot of it in this case here was on the roadways as opposed to flying thousands of miles. We did a lot of driving, but at the end of the day, you're with the boys.
Yeah. And you know what? There's nothing like being on the bus. Right?
No, we had a school bus.
School bus.
In Labrador, we had a school bus. We were in SUVs really to get us around most of Newfoundland. So we broke into smaller groups and drove that way to it would be ultra expensive to put a bus for the type of travel that we had to do over the length of time that we did. But we got to Deer Lake, saw Darren Langdon, these other towns, Springdale, Roddickton, just central part of Newfoundland or northern parts of Newfoundland. Even people who I know who are from Newfoundland say, look, we don't go there, we don't get there. It's hundreds of miles from where we grew up, and there would be no reason to, and yet we had this opportunity thanks to go and play these games. CBC Newfoundland showed up at the Roddickton game. You couldn't shoehorn another person in their barn, and it was they interviewed the guys. I was going in the dressing room telling Bernie Nichols and the Sutter boys, CBC want to interview you, man. It was just, I think they were going, that's like hockey night in Canada, it's like old times. But it's pretty cool to watch. I never really worked at the Sutter brothers.
Right.
We've all heard the name. There's 6 of them. I had occasion to work with 3 of them on this particular tour. The twins, Rich and Ron, and Dwayne, multiple Stanley Cup winner with the Islanders.
His actual name is Wayne. He added the duh himself.
I'll let you tell him that. Yeah, they come by their reputation, honestly, by the way. And Darian Hatcher. I mean, it's just outstanding.
Darren Hatcher's an American, though.
Darren Hatcher was our token American.
Yeah.
Chris Nyland was home with pneumonia.
Oh,
so we didn't have him, but we had Darren Hatcher, the first American to captain a Stanley Cup winning team in Dallas in '99, and he's just a beauty. And it's whenever him and I go into a pub, a bar, a restaurant or something, if there's a chance to get a larger beer draft or whatever,
right.
we're always the two guys that are drinking the 32 ounces. So it's just a treat, man. Just a treat to be around these guys.
Oh,
you know how
great.
much I love the history of the game with these guys all provided for all of us, not just me and you, but anybody who's a fan of the NHL from days gone by. Brian Scruglin, like I said, like I wrote in the thing, you've got Stanley Cup winners, Olympic gold, World Cup, Memorial Cup, NHL record holders, 70 goal scorers. I mean, this was on the trip. And these are just a bunch of guys who go, oh, yeah, okay, this guy, that guy. You put them all together, you end up with 6,246 games, 2,897 points, and 9,009 penalty minutes.
Really?
In the group. So, of course, love that. And the game's got a little chippy at times, so it's right up Kasparaitis'.
Oh, yeah? Oh, well, there's another. So Kasparaitis is
non-Canadian, but a guy who fits right in any type of that environment. And he's just a blast to be around.
He doesn't have any reputation for hitting people at all.
He hit somebody every game.
Yeah.
But it's, he had some words with one of the young lads there in Roddickton at the face-off. There was a couple of rough shifts. Both games, even St. Paul's River. That game got chippy. Springdale a little bit. Roddickton for sure.
Really?
Yeah, it got chippy. These guys are out there. It's the only way they really know how to play on the rock, I think.
Right.
They're gonna have a little edge. Like the game outdoor in St. Paul's River, when it started getting chippy, these guys are coming back to the bench. They were loving it. Like when Kasparaitis hit a couple of them, they were going, "Did you see that, man? He hit me. Did you see that?" Like they were coming back to the bench. They loved it. It. I mean, I don't think they would have liked to see him go full on.
No,
but,
probably not.
I don't think you want Hatcher at 6'5", going about 265 right now to really step into you. But, like, at the same time, the experience for these guys, the reception from the people to see the guys who played in the NHL, it really, truly is something to see. How much they take it to heart, because they're so ingrained with Hockey Night in Canada, and now, of course, on multiple channels, and we all know the broadcasts and everything else, but so many of the people were our vintage, give or take a decade. Like, the generations in and around us, Chris, are our own, and they grew up like United.
You know what our vintage is known as?
What is it?
Mid-century.
Is it?
We're mid-century, like from the 50s and 60s.
Yeah?
Right? That's our mid-century,
Okay.
So we're actually styling. Just so you know.
And profiling?
Yeah.
Style and profiling?
Yeah, I don't know what that means. Is that like that's an online term?
I don't know, probably.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, we're changing the subject.
It was all good.
More. It was all good. It was a great trip.
Another one coming up late March. Can't wait.
Great. Okay. So next thing.
Yeah.
A lot of things happening in the NHL. A lot of I'm going to say potential excitement.
Yeah.
Okay. But I want to ask you this because we haven't had a chance to talk about this, and I know this may be old news to people, but what do you think about the whole McDavid suspension and the things that led up to that? Because you know what, I gotta be honest with you, like I wish there was a fucking Dave Semenko around.
Yeah.
Right, like because that would solve a lot of problems.
It would, for sure. I think Connor's been right out of the gate. His first injury he had in his rookie season. That Flyer defenseman. That was a cheap shot as far as I'm concerned. This was ridiculous. He was mugged. They're trying to offer up a defense where, he threw a punch himself. It's immaterial. He got absolutely mugged out there. Make the call. Even if you think that they both should go off, he's still not going to end up with a 3-game suspension.
Exactly.
The Oilers got lucky. I think they won 2 out of the 3. If I'm not mistaken, but so they kind of dodged that bullet in terms of the standings.
No, but his points totals. I mean, it's like and the money doesn't matter.
He's been chasing McKinnon all season, but at the end of the day, those are 3 games you could ill afford to lose if you are going to try and win another Ross Trophy. Believe me, I think he'd pack all the individual.
But I mean, at the end of the day, you also want to have, and I maybe this isn't the right word, fairness in the league. And your superstars, the Gretzky's of the era, and they should not be, manhandle's not the right word, but they should. You know what? Anything that goes dirty against them, needs to be fucking cracked down on.
Yeah.
Like, and that's my issue. And or all you're going to end up with is saying, okay, we need a few enforcers. Next thing you know, you're back to the 1970s.
Well, those days are never coming back, and the enforcers aren't going out anymore, with the odd, rare exception that we might see a half dozen times over the course of the entire season, where somebody will take it upon themselves to go out there, and despite the instigator that they're probably going to receive, so it's 2, 5, and 10, if not more, depending on the severity of the retaliation, could end up with a suspension or whatever. You're just not seeing it, but the odd time that you do, it's few and far between, and it just, like, there hasn't really been a case, in my opinion, in the last 15 or 20 years, really since the Steve Moore incident, and that was so vicious that it basically ended his career. So I don't think anybody really wants to see that. What you'd like to see is somebody grab these guys and punch their lights out because you're going after your star guy, which, to your point, was Semenko on Gretzky. And to some extent, Lafleur was protected. To a larger extent, Mike Bossy was protected. To a lesser extent, Mario Lemieux was protected. But in and around all that, you had Wayne, who was very protected.
Yeah.
He certainly was looked after by a number of guys, definitely in his Edmonton years.
So there's this guy,
less so in LA, but
when you talk about, Bossy, there's this fella who played for the Islanders there. His name was Clark Gillies.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? Some would call him a bit of a wussy. I wouldn't, right? Okay, so then you talk about Lafleur. You had fucking Bouchard. You had, and then you had the whole defensive core.
Yeah, the whole D-core.
That whole D-core.
Yeah,
there was
there
wasn't a guy under 6'8" or something on. I don't know if they're that big, but you know what I mean.
No,
they were big.
In the 1970s, Montreal did not have one defenseman under 6 foot. No other team could make that case. And Guy Lapointe was actually in stature the smallest guy, because their fourth or fifth guys were guys like Bill Nyrup and Rod Langway and Brian Engblom.
Rod Langway, he's your sixth defenseman.
Yeah,
and granted, he's an American, right?
Yeah.
Taiwan. But I think, isn't he in the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame?
I believe he is.
Yeah.
He's in both. He's in.
Is he in our Hall?
He's in the main Hall of Fame.
Is he really?
Yeah. He's in the main.
Okay, so Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
and he was your sixth defenseman.
Yeah, he's a rookie.
You got some depth. But you have some depth.
Yeah, they did. Montreal had depth, and they definitely had guys who were looking out for Guy. I mean, having said that, there's a famous photo of Montreal carrying a Stanley Cup around Boston Garden in 1978, and Guy is holding the ice pack to his face. Like, the Bruins still ran him mercilessly in that series. Mike Milbury threatened to kill him. You had lots going on because.
You know what would have been worse?
After the
if Mike Milbury had drafted him. Because he was the worst fucking GM in history.
Yeah, you could make the case he was the worst GM in history. There's no doubt about that. At the end of the day, look, if someone was going to take a gratuitous shot at Guy, then yes, the Habs are going to step in. They're really, like, for Gretzky, it went to another level.
Yeah, absolutely.
It went to another level because Guy fought a bit. Like Guy stuck up for himself his first 3 years in the NHL. And he was wearing the helmet. He had some scraps. He was a guy that was going to push back. If you gave it to him, he'd give you the stick.
Yeah.
He took some penalty minutes. He wasn't a Lady Byng candidate.
Right.
Whereas Wayne won it 5 times, even though the first time was a joke. He shouldn't have won it, but they gave it to him as a... Lafleur should probably actually won it that year. Ironically, in 79-80, they should have given Lafleur probably the Lady Byng, but they gave it to Gretzky because they couldn't give him the call there.
So let me ask you this. Have you seen the videos that are going, I don't know what you call it, memes or whatever. It's Gretz on the bench with New York, with Mess the captain.
Yeah.
Gretz is there.
Yeah.
And he's calling a guy, he calls him a cocksucker.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's just hockey talk, right?
Yeah.
Bench talk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm there and I'm seeing this, okay? Yeah. And this person that I'm with, okay, is totally offended. They think that's the worst. Oh my God. How could you possibly? That's horrible, Tom.
So they're not familiar with the sport.
Not familiar with the sport. Like they were. This was in the U.S., right?
Sure.
So they're going on. I think that's horrible.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it's not horrible. I mean, they say, well, that's not a. You can't call. I said, listen. The only time a guy's upset being called a cocksucker is if he is, right? Okay. Like for most of us, it's like, yeah, well, fuck you too, right? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, so the last thing you want to do is have a microphone in even men's league dressing rooms, even though I think it's a lot better than it used to be because various other slurs and things that were much more rampant, I think
cocksucker is one of the most used
Well, I
words.
can tell you, Rich Sutter it's part of his every sentence vocabulary almost, which it's to the point where it's quite funny. But he just he drops it in like you would. How's the weather today?
Hey, exactly.
Cocksucker.
Wow.
I mean, it's just it is what it is. And if somebody was offended by that, say they don't know.
Well, this is the thing. So
listen, don't ever watch the Brian Trottier one where he's going after Brian Bellows from the bench when he's with the Pittsburgh Penguins. If there's any YouTube homework you want to take tonight, go on YouTube, do the search, Brian Trottier, Brian Bellows, and you and Kevin Stevens, who's on the bench beside him. And it is
hilarious.
Freaking believable what they say to Bellows. What they call him and what they say to him is the way it was.
Yes.
But it's not that way anymore. But
I know. You can't say those things anymore. But frankly, saying those things really helped you get things off your chest too, right?
Well, there's an element of release for sure. You can just let that invective go and just absolutely unload on a guy. You did feel a lot better, and it might even just marginally take the edge off you wanting to go out there and cross-check him right across the head.
Right.
Because even
so what you're saying is that we should have somebody call McDavid a cocksucker, and they would not cross-check him.
I'm pretty sure he's used all sorts of language as well. There's no doubt in my mind. But that should have been preventable by the officials.
Yeah.
That should have been called, and you clean all that up, and it wasn't. And as a result, he got the 3 games. They're going to waltz into the playoffs again after a little bit of a wonky start. They've righted the ship. They look great. Really, I don't think there's been another year where there has, but in recent memory. But this Stanley Cup is really up for grabs. I mean, Florida are defending champs, and they still will be hell in a cell to beat out. But there's 2 or 3 teams in the East. I'll tell you, you give me a healthy Ottawa Senator lineup right now, and they would be tough out in a best of 7. Without Pinto and Norris, it's such a hole on their depth.
Yeah.
And it highlights some other weaknesses.
So you're telling me that Norris is injured?
I know. This just in.
Holy Christ.
I know. He said, well, listen, we're going through it in Montreal with Goulet. I mean, he's decent-sized guy, but he goes out and plays like he thinks he's Scott Stevens.
Right.
And he's getting hurt all the time. And again, it's another season-ending injury.
But Norris isn't season-ending, though.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not. But he's often injured, and this will be problematic. However, at the end of the day, as we're taping this, if the playoffs started today, Ottawa would be in.
Right.
Last year at this time, they were 16 points out.
Right.
So this is a massive turnaround that a lot of people who have been following the Senators have been waiting for this for the last 3 or 4 years, and it does seem to be coming to fruition. Stützle's bounced back. Yeah. Brady has had it up and down, but at the end of the day, the consistency level that he brings shift in and shift out. And I love it because obviously he doesn't give a shit what the people are saying at the end of the game when he decides to punch somebody in the head because Ottawa's losing. And people go on the radio and say, he's less concerned about fighting, more concerned about getting us the win. And here they are in a playoff spot right now. It just, what that really highlights to me is the people who don't know the sport of hockey. Like the person you're referring to, you were beside in the States and were upset by the video that was shown with that comment. If you're commenting on Brady negatively because of how he finishes some games, you just clearly, A, for sure you never played the sport, and B, you just don't really know it.
Well, you know what?
You just have no common sense knowledge of the sport of hockey as it's played at the professional level. Maybe, Hosie for you was just massive, and you got all the participation trophies. And you're really happy, and you got something to show your grandkids. You bring them in, son, this is when, we lost 10-0, and we went out with our tail between our legs, but I got one of these, and this is why I'm not successful in life, see? But at the end of the day, it's a big business, and Brady Tkachuk plays big business hockey.
Yeah.
And I love the guy. I think he's the best all-around captain in the league. I mean, in terms of all-around. You play it any way you want. He still scores. He's going to get you 30 goals. He's going to get you 150 PIMs. He's going to drag his team into the fight, and he's a large reason why they are now. Look, Stützle has been, you must admit too. He has had a real bounce back year.
Yeah.
He's got.
Well, you know what? I know you're.
I'd love to know if he's lost weight.
You're calling it a bounce back year, but I would say he's playing to his potential. I think he can actually do better. And I'm not trying to push it on the guy and make him, like I'm not satisfied. But I like the guy has real fucking greatness in, like, there's flashes where you go, like, is that Kovalev? Like, have you ever seen?
Yeah, I remember Kovalev very well.
No, but you remember when, like, some of the moves and some of the ability that Stützle has reminds me of that, like, where you were just sort of blown away. Even Kovalev, when he was older and slow, had more moves than you in the 1970s.
Let's not get carried away. You mean off the ice or on?
Off the ice.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, then I'm up there. That's where I'm a Viking. Yeah. But you know what, Kovalev, interesting comparison. I think Stützle's, what he's showing to me this year is his speed has increased.
Yeah.
He looks a whole lot quicker out there. I'm curious, and I don't know, and I should possibly, I guess. I don't know if his weight's down or not. But he looks really quick out there. It's faster than I've ever seen him.
Yeah.
And when I say bounce back, it wasn't like he had a horrendous year last year, but he was like 20 points less than the year before. Yeah. It's pretty substantial. And I think the guy could, on a good year, have 100 points. Now, the consistency hasn't fully been there over almost 60 games, but he's been great. Brady's been great. Sanderson started slow. He's playing the best. He just got, he's replacing Quinn Hughes in the Four Nation. So
those are big skates, eh?
Big skates, man, because Quinn Hughes is exceptional.
Yeah.
And, it's already got a Norris Trophy, probably more to come in his career. And that's big shoes to fill. But I think Jake will do well, and he's got lots of international experience so far coming up. So even though this is a different stage, but it's a made-for-TV tourney too.
Yeah, so, I know. Well, we're going to talk about that in another time. Closer to the actual tournament, we're going to talk about that, which is coming up very shortly. Okay. The other thing I was going to say.
Coming up in 48 hours.
Okay. Fucking, you don't tell. Anyway. Okay. No, it is coming up. I know, but we're going to talk about it. Okay. Yeah. And we're also going to talk about the fucking Toronto Maple Leafs and stuff like that later on in another episode. Okay.
Okay.
But we're done. This is it. We're finished. This is our episode.
But we got a rebound show.
But we got to do a few things here.
Yeah.
Okay. So we just didn't happen to have any pints with us.
No.
Okay. So
I forgot my beer and
you know
you're out of beer.
Okay. So here's what. But we do have to give an update just before we close on our Hosie Brown
Hosie and Brown
hockey pool.
Yep.
Okay. So here's the thing. I've never seen anything not move in my life like this.
It's incredible.
It is unbelievable.
Everybody stays in the exact same spot.
Yeah. Like it may be one shuffle here, back and forth, whatever. Yeah. But the top four are the same top four with no movement, nothing at all. And I'm thinking to myself, there's got to be something I could throw in there to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've put a 25% tariff on all U.S.-born players.
There it is.
So
you worked it in somehow.
Okay, that's it. So we have the update. Still leading the hockey pool is Adel.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that, by the way. That's great.
Yeah.
Great
and
guy.
So, he is.
Yeah.
So we're going to come back. We'll talk about it. We'll give an update as we move on. But this has been Offside with Hosie McGuire. I'm Hawes.
I'm McGuire. Get in.